a deeper internalization. Let us examine what are the implications of this budget for the poor people in our country. I would like to make reference to page 1, paragraph 4 of the 2016 budget presentation, where the Honorable Minister makes reference to the scriptures, and I quote, "It is written in the good book, the Psalm 118:24, let us rejoice today and be glad." End of quote. Today, there is a lot for which we should be thankful and glad. Thanks solely to the positive establishments inherited by the current de facto government. From the numerous schools, hospitals, health centers, roads, bridges, and defense structures.
This matter,
yes, Honourable Member.
Reference to de facto government, so there's no de facto government, there's a legitimate elected government of Guyana, and it ought not to stand on the record. It ought not to stand on the record, sir, with greatest of respect.
Is he quoting me? There's no tone in
I thank the Honourable
I don't know
Member.
what he was quoting, and if he was quoting, he needs to say.
I thank the Honourable Member. Honourable Member, the Speaker presides over this Assembly. The Speaker presides over an Assembly of elected members. The Speaker presides over an Assembly which comprises government and opposition. The Speaker would wish that you bear that in mind in any reference to government. The Speaker will not wish to have to rule you out of order if you insist on doing otherwise. I would suggest that in speaking, you correct yourself in relation to what you just said. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is a petition in the court.
Then, Honourable Member, you ought not to import into this Assembly anything that is in the court. It cannot be both ways.
Okay, Mr. Speaker.
If there is a petition, as you say, then you ought to correct yourself. If there isn't a petition, then you correct yourself. Either way, it ought not to be uttered by you. And honourable members, let me say this. Freedom of speech is enjoyed by all of us in this Assembly. It is an untrammeled right, but it is always exercised within the four walls of some rules, whether we're outside of this Assembly or within here. Within the Assembly, the standing orders and decorum and decency and respect for institutions and practices apply. We cannot continue to pretend that it is otherwise only when it suits our purpose. I say that because honourable members must impose upon themselves the restraint that the freedom gives them. It's a paradox. But you enjoy that freedom of expression only because the Parliament says you are free to say what you want to say here. But by the same token, you have an obligation to observe those unspoken rules that make things work. I suspect that matters which outside would attract the attention of the law should give members cause for pause before they use them here. I do not know that I need to speak in these terms. Unfortunately, I felt I ought to. Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I say with a sense of pride, all conviction and confidence that the outlined achievements listed above are the achievement of the PPP government.
I interrupt. I take it that you would wish what you said before to be removed from the record.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Speaker.
Well, please say that. Please say that for the record so that we can have it.
AFC government.
Mr. Neal Kumar.
Yeah. I withdraw, Mr. Speaker. I withdraw it on de facto.
Honorable members, please take your seat. I am sorry that we are going to be, the Speaker is feeling himself obliged to speak in this way. But look, if we make a mistake, is it so difficult to withdraw? I do not understand this reluctance in honorable members in this House to acknowledge an error and to simply put it right. Surely it cannot be a difficulty if one in the heat of exchanges says something that he knows he ought not to say. Why are we losing so much time in this debate? I believe it would be entirely helpful to all of us if we do not seek opportunities only to give offense or to, so to speak, goad another honorable member into responding to something that contributes nothing to the debate, but everything to some form of disregard. I don't know. Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw, right? Mr. Speaker, I say with a sense of pride, all conviction and confidence that the outlined achievements listed above are the achievement of the PPP civic government. There is certainly no doubt that all these honorable achievements were done under the PPPC tenure in office, and they should be recognized as such. During our tenure as a party in government, we never sit idly by. Rather, we always sought for ways and means to improve the lives of our people. Mr. Speaker, it is quite obvious and much too early for pretentious, devious claims to work not done be used and packaged in an attempt to deceive our people by pulling wool over their eyes. I am certain the nation could see this glaring attempt and the woeful shortcomings in keeping with the old adage, he who feels it knows it, and many are feeling it. How can this nation be glad when the victims of the coalition government are firstly our pensioners and our children? This government removed the water subsidy of $8,900 for pensioners, removed the electricity subsidy of $20,000 for pensioners, removed the education grant of $10,000 for school children. And to add insult to all injuries, this irresponsible government closed down the first call center that was built by President Barjag, your government in Linden. As a consequence, more than 200 students and workers' lives were shattered in Linden. Mr. Speaker, approximately 2,000 of our indigenous sons and daughters of this soil were dismissed and denied their jobs. How can our people be glad? Their tears and sufferings are at the feet of the APNU AFC. The elderly, who gave their best to the development of our country, were duped to believe that they will be getting $1,200 increase a month on their pension in 2016. However, the deceit is widely recognized, as in one case, an elderly pensioner, Granny Abel Situram, recently said to me that the increase will be from April 1st, All Fool's Day, and they will only be getting a mere $900 a month for the year 2016. What a shame the poor and elderly and our nation's greatest asset, our children, are being given less under this budget advanced by the APNU AFC government. Mr. Speaker, let me turn to sports. This year 2016 budget lacks any vision for the development of sports in Guyana. Last year, the Honorable Minister of Finance, in his budget speech, failed to mention the word sport in his budget speech. As for this year, it is indeed sad that this year when our powerful neighbor, Brazil, will be hosting the world's most prestigious games, the World Olympic Games, again, this APNU AFC government is visionless, has failed to tell this nation about their plans for the development of sports in our country. It seems that our sportsmen and sportswomen will have no opportunity to develop themselves in the field of sports. The annual National Sports Awards ceremony is a signature event in the sport calendar in every country. This is an activity that all top achievers in sports eagerly look forward to. It is unacceptable for us to know that this incompetent government is trying to politicize this national activity. Mr. Speaker, all the Caribbean countries have already announced their 2015 top achievers in the field of sport. We have all heard about Usain Bolt in Jamaica. Can the Honourable Minister tell us when we will know the top achievers in sport for the year 2015? Mr. Speaker, our young sportsmen and sportswomen eagerly look forward annually to compete at the Inter-Guyana Games. Sad to say that there were no games in 2015. The games, according to the protocol signed between Guyana, Suriname and French Guyana, clearly state that the games will be played between the three countries in 7 specific sport disciplines in 2 phases annually. The Inter-Guyana Games are a event that our students prepare and look forward to compete at every year, since it is the first time in many athletes' life that they are given an opportunity to wear their national colors. Let us urge the government of the day to make sure that the annual Inter-Guyana Games be a reality. Mr. Speaker, the APNU AFC government is fortunate to benefit from several state-of-the-art sports facilities. However, it is sad to know that little attention is put in place to maintain and sustain these facilities. As for the National Sports Hall, the roof is leaking and the floor is damaging as a result. I want to sound a warning that the stands in the sports hall desperately need repairs. It is important that the stands be repaired immediately before we hear that spectators and athletes get injured. Mr. Speaker, the National Gymnasium on Mandela Avenue hosted international sports events such as the International Hockey Festival and Caribbean football tournaments. It is a serious indictment as the roof is leaking and the sanitary facilities are not in good condition, while the lights at the gymnasium are very poor. Mr. Speaker, the National Sports Resource Center was built with the main objective that it will be the forerunner for a national sports institute. However, it's a pity that it's now a white elephant. The National Sports Center was built to create opportunities for our athletes and sports administrators to be exposed to information via the print and electronic media. The Resource Center must be put into operation and it must provide guidance, training, and certification to the stakeholders in sports. It is imperative that our athletes, coaches, umpires, referees, scorers, journalists, managers, chaperones, all the technical persons and the general public must benefit from continuous training. Mr. Speaker, when this Resource Center was launched, it was very delightful to see the now Minister of Education, Dr. Ryan present there. We set up a library. There's no library any longer. There's no, I don't know what is happening there now. When I ask what is happening, I understand that what is happening will only be happening for a short time. Mr. Speaker, the APNU AFC government must continue developing the play fields and grounds around the country. Our youths must continue to benefit from better sporting facilities around the country. The PPPC government, I'll tell you what I did. The PPC government developed over 300 grounds around the country. And today, only a few months later, APNU FC are in government. And some of these grounds are pastures for animals and grounds for reptiles and snakes. The construction of the Guyana National Stadium at Providence, the synthetic track and field facility at Lenora, along with the National Aquatic Center, are all state-of-the-art facilities that was built by the PP Civic government. And they must be maintained so that our sports personality must make the best use of all and medal for our country. The PPPC government, during their tenure in government, are proud of their investment in our youths and students. And as such, we are asking that this regime must maintain and sustain what we have. Guyana must not be allowed to reverse to pre-1992. Mr. Speaker, let me ask the Minister of Finance what this budget has for the further development of bauxite, rice, and sugar. In one loud voice, we can say zilch. The APNU AFC promised the rice farmers big increase in the price for their crops and gives them nothing. They promised the sugar workers a better living, and then they are now closing down one of the sugar estates, while they have failed to give them any increase. Now, money that the sugar workers work for and earn is being taken away from them. Our sugar workers and their families are now the target for political and other discrimination in our country. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to tell this nation and remind them that the valedictorian student for 2014-2015 from the University of Guyana was the son of the soil, and was a son from Wales Estate. His father was a cane harvester. I congratulate them, and I ask this government to take into consideration what the people of Wales can do and ask them not to close the estate. Let us work together with the most powerful union in this country, GAU, work together for inclusiveness so that we could resolve and keep the estate and keep the lives of the people intact. Mr. Speaker, as for bauxite, the PPC government took over a sick bauxite industry. We took it over from the PNC. It was the astute leadership of the PPC under President Barry Jagdeo and Sam Hines that Bosai came to rescue the Upper Demerara operations. Fourth, it is the PPPC that brought Rusal to operate the Borbis operations. Today, we can say that Bosai is running the Lynn Mine operations at a profit over the last 6 years. Do not chase them away, keep them, as they are now critically responsible for the livelihood of thousands of people in Linden. Bosai is now employing approximately 600 workers directly, while more than 1,000 persons are employed on contracts and otherwise. Mr. Speaker, with respect to the Borbis operations, the Borbis Mining Enterprise Bormine died under the PNC administration. However, under the leadership of the Honorable Barry Jagdeo and Sam Hines, the Bauxite Corporation of Guyana, BCGI, and Rusal came and rescued the industry in the Borbis area.
Honourable Member, you have 2 minutes remaining.
Mr. Speaker, can I use the opportunity to also ask that the member be given his 5 minutes extension? Thank you.
I thank the Honourable Member. Honourable Member, you may speak for an additional 5 minutes, so you will speak for a total of 20 minutes.
Rusal considers development to be one of the main aspects of the company. The development of Kurubuka deposit means that there are 23 million tons of bauxite reserves presently. Hence, the operation life of the Kurubuka deposit is 15 years still to come. While there will be stable jobs and more than 1,000 full-time workers, subcontracts will attract more than 2,000 workers. Let us save the bauxite industry. Again, the PP Civic did more than it could have done to save the bauxite. Mr. Speaker, in Region 4, the PPPC government enhanced the lifestyle of our people in all the communities. There were significant developments in agriculture, infrastructure, and roads to improve the quality of our people's lives. Water, housing, health, and education were indeed successful. Our people's lives were transformed from depressing poverty to a promising civilization. It is therefore necessary for the APNU AFC government to implement their campaign promises to improve the current standard of living and not lay a claim to development they did not achieve. Mr. Speaker, I could recall vividly that in 1989 budget that was presented in this parliament by the PNC, it was described by the Working People's Alliance as a vampire budget, while the PP described that budget as an anti-working class budget. This budget is visionless, anti-working class budget. It is a budget that has nothing for the poor, nothing for our youths. Let the minister tell us where there are any job opportunity for our young people. Thank you.